Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm talking about what to do when he doesn't love you back. There was a lot of fighting in my guest Julia's blended family, and her husband decided to move away. It was a terrible wake-up call. She found the 6 intimacy skills and was practicing them. But a year later, he still wasn't coming back. Today, her marriage is so connected and strong. She knows she's married to her soulmate. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. But first, let's get to what to do when he doesn't love you back. And you want him to love you because it hurts like crazy and it crushes your self-esteem when that happens. There are 3 debilitating myths about this that I see women falling for. So we're going to expose those myths and talk about what to do instead. It feels so rejecting when you find out that your guy doesn't love you back. It feels like you've been let down in the worst way when you least expect it. Your head races with terrible thoughts about how this could have happened, whether it's hopeless, and what it means for your future, which can seem so dark. You wonder, does it mean that you aren't lovable? So first of all, no, it doesn't mean that. And in a moment, I'll give you proof. But more importantly, if what you want is for him to respond to you like an irresistible magnet, so you feel attractive and desired, let's bust these myths that could hurt your relationship. Myth number 1. We can talk this out. When he says he doesn't love you back, or if he's acting like it, it's as tempting as a Cinnabon to talk things out with him, but I don't recommend it. Those State of the Union addresses are likely to do more harm than good, as you probably already know from having had them. It always seems like it will help, but it doesn't. Nobody ever felt more confident and connected and desired after talking about why he doesn't love you back. When I was pursuing those kinds of talks, the driving force behind my desire to have those conversations was fear. I wanted to talk until he saw things my way, otherwise known as steamrolling him into changing his mind so that I wouldn't have to feel scared. And the more scared I was, the more steamrollery I became. And the more I steamrolled, the more he just wanted to get away from me, which made me even more scared. What a mess. So here's what to do instead. Take that fear to someone else. You need to be seen and heard and understood, and you need it more than ever right now. And to get reassurance that you're still lovable. And he can't give you that right now, but that's temporary. But you can get it from your friends or your family or from a coach. You might think that's not the same as hearing it from him, but we're not done yet. So stick with me here. Myth number 2 is if I do more acts of service, he'll feel my love and love me back. Another mistake you might fall into as a mere mortal woman is trying to earn his love by doing things for him so he'll love you back again. But that's not what makes men feel loved. They actually feel loved when they get to do things for you and see you're happy as a result. So did you catch that? I'm going to repeat it because it's so opposite of what makes women feel loved. And it's kind of hard for my female brain to comprehend it, but it's very complementary to what makes us feel loved. Actually, it's a beautiful system. Men feel loved when they carry heavy things for you, assemble the furniture to make you happy, or bring you your favorite dessert, and then you're happy as a result of what they did. They feel in love when they do things for you, and you receive them with delight and gratitude. Isn't that kind of great? So a much less exhausting and more effective approach to restoring the love in your relationship than doing things for him is to be receptive to him doing things for you. You could show that you are pleasable by smiling, by making yourself happy, even though I know you're also feeling really hurt and sad. And that's so normal. That's totally appropriate because of this situation you're in. But it's also going to be really important to make yourself happy and smile and be receptive, right? Both are true. And I know it sounds contradictory. Next, let him kill the creepy bug in the bathroom, or take care of your car, or make you a cup of coffee, and then smile and say how happy that makes you. Myth number 3, if he doesn't love you, he never will again. Okay, it may seem permanent that he doesn't love you back, and you likely feel hopeless about that. And I get that. And that's not, I hate that you feel that way. It's understandable. It's very hurtful. But since he previously did love you and now he doesn't, that means he changed his mind. He changed his mind. But since he changed his mind, that proves he can change it back, right? Stands to reason. He can change it back. What he is likely trying to say when he says he doesn't love you back, or if he's acting like he doesn't love you back, is that he is feeling deprived of oxygen, which is how men feel about respect in a marriage. It's their oxygen. And that means it's not really about you as a person. It's not that you're unlovable or unattractive to him, but it could be that no one ever taught you what respect looks like, what it really is. And you've been unintentionally suffocating your marriage as a result. Now, if you learn what respect looks like to him and you show up more respectfully, that could just breathe new life into your marriage. We see that happen a lot on this campus. A student was just telling me yesterday that when she read the book, The Empowered Wife, it completely changed her understanding of what it means to be respectful. And she realized she wanted to make some big apologies as a result of her new awareness. She wanted to be a respectful wife, right? And as scary and as painful as it is, when your man isn't loving you back, that doesn't mean your love story with him is over. But it might mean there are some gaps in your education, just like there were in mine, about how to love and be loved in return. In other words, this could be, and often is, the breakdown before the breakthrough to feeling more loved than ever before. And I can't think of anything more important and exciting to learn. Something big is happening here on the Laura Doyle campus, and you are invited. Hundreds of women have become experts on the 6 intimacy skills and transformed their marriages by becoming certified Laura Doyle relationship coaches who live their purpose, have more intimacy, and earn for their families. In my free masterclass, Purpose, Prosperity, and Intimacy, How to Have All Three and Help Others Do the Same, I share directly from our popular relationship coach training and certification course about the number one most important qualification for becoming a successful relationship coach. I also reveal the indispensable first step to having a passionate, peaceful relationship and how to share it with other women. I explain about why our coaches have an unfair advantage over other relationship coaches and counselors. And I go step by step through our proven coaching curriculum and why it's so effective in saving marriages and empowering coaches. Register today for Purpose, Prosperity, and Intimacy. Have all three and help others do the same at lauradoyle.org/purpose. That's lauradoyle.org/purpose. There was a lot of fighting in my guest Julia's blended family, and her husband decided to move away. It was a terrible wake-up call. She found the 6 intimacy skills and was practicing them, but 1 year later, he still wasn't coming back. But today, her marriage is so connected and strong. She knows she's married to her soulmate. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. Julia, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us what things were like in your marriage in the bad old days.
In the bad old days, we got married pretty quickly. And after only 14 months of marriage, we started to fight almost every day. And we are in a blended family, and the kids were fighting, and we were basically taking sides. And my husband ended up moving out after 16 months. So a couple of months after we started fighting every day. We had initially talked about maybe splitting apart and staying together when when we didn't have the kids. But instead, he moved out very abruptly. He told me we didn't have a future together. Oof. And that we couldn't make it work because he felt that things were way too difficult to blend our boys together. I have one boy who's 15, and he has two around the same age. And I have two older kids outside the house. So he felt like we couldn't make it work, and didn't even tell me we moved out.
He didn't even tell you?
He told me right before. And he ended up putting a down payment on an apartment without telling me, and left the very next weekend. So it was devastating, and just felt really blindsided, and did not see it coming.
Oh, I guess it felt like he just stomped all over your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. It was really, really difficult. And it was during COVID. Oh. So that kind of made it way worse. Because I didn't really have anyone. He was the person that I was supposed to be with during COVID, because it was a couple of months into COVID. So I had decided he was my person, obviously to be spending time with. And I was left pretty much alone with that, with my son, who was with me every other week, and that was it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So that you had full weeks alone, and then every other week your son was there from the five of you living together down to you live alone during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about feeling abandoned.
Very much so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me a little bit. So you mentioned there was some fighting with the blended family, and the boy, it was kind of about the boys not getting along, but not so much about you and him, it sounds like.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought it was just the boys not getting along, but I was trying to control everything. I realize now, as being very controlling in terms of what he should say to the kids, what he should say to his ex. We had my in-laws coming in, and our parents coming in and telling us what to do, and because things weren't working out. So we were taking sides, and I became very protective over my son and tried to tell my husband how to parent the kids. Basically, I didn't realize how controlling and manipulative I was being when things didn't go exactly how I wanted them to go. So that's when I felt him kind of pulling away, and instead of pulling back and letting him deal with the situation, I became very disrespectful. He seemed really overwhelmed with that. I think he felt that I was taking over his parenting of his kids, and I could tell that he was being repelled by me, and how controlling I was.
Oof. Okay, but just from your perspective at the time, not knowing what you know now, it sounds like you're probably just trying to protect your son, or maybe trying to make sure it was peaceful and they stopped fighting, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to make it peaceful. I was trying to get the kids together. We were both trying to almost kind of get them to get along. And when we realized that they weren't getting along, and they may never get along, I tried to force it a little bit more. And there were things that I did that I shouldn't have done, like when they were watching a horror movie. He was watching a horror movie with his kids, and I was telling him, you can't watch that in here because Brody doesn't like horror movies. And I told him to go into another room. And then I realized that, maybe Brody would go into that room. So I told him to, oh, you can't watch it in there either. You need to go into the bedroom and watch it on your laptop. And I think that was kind of what really repelled my husband the most, was just the minutia of the way I was trying to control things. And I was just so focused on what was going on with the kids, that I just became overwhelming for him, I believe. Yeah.
Well, you're very accountable in the way you describe that situation, which is very appealing. But at the time, you probably didn't think you were doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I thought I was trying to fix everything. I mean, it's difficult enough to make things work as a blended family. And when things got a little tougher, I felt like things weren't going my way. So I thought I could fix it. And I didn't really take it into account his thoughts or feelings. And I thought that my parenting skills were superior, since I had two older boys of my own who were very capable and well adjusted. So I thought I was doing things right. I thought that I could fix things just doing it only my way, and pretty much gave my husband the credit. But I was being a very protective mama bear over my son. He was very sad because he always wanted to have a brother or sister his age, because his older brothers are quite a bit older. So it was really, me being more protective over him than anything. And I guess I didn't realize what I was doing in the meantime.
So this is interesting. So your son, when your husband moved out with his two boys, the boys he had been fighting with all this time, it sounds like there was actually some sadness for him about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he always wanted me to have another sibling. So yeah, he was very sad about that. He thought, because we met at their hockey, he played hockey with one of his sons, one of my husband's sons. We thought they would be, they would continue to be friends, but that wasn't the case. So he was quite sad about that. There was a lot of jealousy happening.
Wow. So even though at home there was lots of bickering and fighting, there was actually some love between those stepbrothers, it sounds like. Also, I
think initially there was, when we had some play dates and things like that. And, he really, really, really wanted brothers. He was so excited for it. So it was really heartbreaking for me to see how it ended up, and see how, the fighting just wouldn't stop, or they would just ignore him. He would ignore them. And I think we concerned ourselves with that a little too much, and everybody started to try to fix it, mostly me, and just not let it go, kind of fix itself. We didn't do any counseling for them or anything like that. So I was very surprised when my husband moved out, because I thought it would be fixable.
Yeah. So you were still like, okay, we're going to work on this. Well, it's hard right now, but it won't be this way forever.
Right.
But he wasn't feeling that way. He's like, I give up.
Yeah, he was, I don't know why. I mean, it's really, I don't understand it to this day, why he just gave up. It's really hard to think about, because he's not that way now.
Oh,
and
previous
he
coming
would,
attractions. So you didn't come on the
it's,
show to just tell us that he moved out at the end, and that was the end, that was the end of your
that
marriage.
wasn't the end. That wasn't the end of
Oh, there's
my
more to the
marriage at
story.
all.
Whew. Okay. Well, before we get to that though, what so you guys were just trying to work on it on your own, it sounds like. Was there anything else? What else did you do to try to fix it after you started fighting almost every day?
Well, like I said, he just moved out. So
Yeah,
there
there's
wasn't
really
any
no time.
fixing. There really
That's
wasn't
true.
any fixing.
That's a good point.
We didn't talk to each other for about 6 weeks. And then we started to see each other momentarily. But then what I did try to do to fix it was I went online and I Googled, what can I do to fix my marriage? And I found a book by you, The Empowered Wife. And I read the book and I realized what I had been doing. And so then I started to try to fix it.
Wow. That must have been quite a moment. You are probably the saddest you've ever been in your whole life, right? Just having been abandoned, rejected. But somehow you read a book and then you have this awareness that maybe you contributed to the breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't realized that I was being disrespectful, and that respect, as it says in the book, respect is like oxygen for men. And I think I realized that it made my husband feel like I thought he wasn't capable of dealing with his own life. And I didn't realize that it would cause him to be repelled by me. And, I also realized that we needed to set certain boundaries with our extended family in order to be respected as a couple in a very highly conflicted situation. So, yeah. I mean, after reading the book, I realized there were a lot of things I was missing in myself.
That's tremendous. That sounds like enormous self-awareness and accountability, just an openness. And I guess, and maybe in some ways, I shouldn't be surprised, right? That the tremendous pain and that tremendous like hyper growth kind of go together, as it sounds like it did in your situation.
Yeah, I think it was really an eye-opener for me. It was really a huge, huge wake-up call. I realized that I hadn't been accountable or aware of what I was creating, and that I had really quickly lost the intimacy that my husband and I once shared. So, yeah, I started just to practice the skills. So, and then, and I practiced the skills one by one. And, it didn't seem to be work. It kind of did work at first, but it took a really long time. But I knew that I had to relinquish control of the timeline. And right before I almost gave up, he was obviously became magnetized by me and wanted to come back into my life, which was I had considered starting just giving up and starting dating again, because I thought this isn't going to work, but it did work.
He even told you to start dating, I think, right? Wasn't that part of it?
He did. He said, well, we don't have a future together. You can never see my kids again. And you should probably start dating, because even though we were seeing each other every once in a while, he said, it's just not going to work with us. And, it felt like he was trying to push me away even harder. And so, I just felt like after about 8 or 9 months, I thought, okay, these skills aren't working.
Not for you. They don't work for you. I totally get
it.
They
don't work for me.
Okay, well, I want to hear. I have so many questions. Okay, so what did you start doing? What was the first thing you started doing differently than you had been doing?
Well, the very first thing I did was I made a big apology, and I apologized to him for being controlling. And I did the Laura Doyle apology. I said I apologize for being disrespectful when I was being very controlling when we were together. And I still remember the look on his face of shock. I don't know if it was skepticism, curiosity, but it was definitely mixed in with shock. And then one skill, which I thought I was very good at and had been very good at, gratitude, was always on my radar, even before the skills, but I realized that I hadn't been practicing it in my marriage. So I hadn't really internalized the respect I did have for him. So hadn't been showing him the respect that he deserved. I realized that I was just so consumed with focusing on what wasn't working, that increased. So that sort of that emotional turmoil that ended up happening caused me to lose myself in process. So I dug deep with the gratitude and created some positive spouse fulfilling prophecies for myself and my husband. And I did try to clean up my side of the street for the control and manipulation, as I said. And the biggest thing I did, though, I think, and probably the last thing that I'm even still working on today, was that I became more vulnerable and soft instead of angry and frustrated, because I think that's what he saw right before he left. I was very angry and frustrated.
Wow. That was a lot. I want to recap a little bit. First of all, I got chills hearing your apology. I got chills because that was, speaking of vulnerable, right? That was very vulnerable, very humble, very accountable. And I love the description of the look on his face, like just like shock, bewilderment, maybe skepticism. We don't know, but definitely you surprised. You made his head explode, which is kind of a fun part of practicing the skills, right? But were you nervous to deliver that apology?
Very, very, because I was trying to be skilled, but and I'm hoping that it came across authentic, but it was very nerve-wracking because I didn't know what his reaction would be. So it was very, I thought maybe he would just keep blaming me. But he didn't. He just kind of stopped and really thought about it. So yeah, it was very scary, but I know that in order to change, you have to change, and really focus on the scary things, coming out of your comfort zone and doing things differently.
Yeah. Amen. That's a great example of coming out of your comfort zone and doing things differently. You make it sound kind of easy, but I know that it's not that easy. So I appreciate hearing that it was scary for you to say. And it sounds very courageous. And then I also love, you kind of point to that you were focused on the emotional turmoil and that increased and that kind of swallowed up that took up all the oxygen away from maybe appreciating some of the ways your husband was making your life better. And so the gratitude had been kind of squeezed out from that turmoil. And I heard you say, which I love, that's an incredible awareness, right? And then it sounds like you were able to start expressing appreciation along with the spouse fulfilling prophecies. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
What were some of your spouse fulfilling prophecies that you made?
It was it was flipping what I didn't want. So it was basically saying, I know you love me. And
he just left you. He moved out.
Well, he kind of would have alluded to that, the fact that, we still cared about me because we would get together from time to time. And that was a scary one to say, but I felt like he did still love me. And that's part of the reason why I stuck around. So
You were
that was
finding
one of,
finding the
pardon
evidence. You're finding the
me?
evidence
Yeah,
of,
I was
yeah.
finding the evidence because he was coming around still. And I was trying to be girl of fun and light whenever he would come around, and not make it about the anger and frustration anymore. So
Okay, yeah, and you mentioned that too. Like what happened to that anger and frustration? Like where
I
did that
think
go?
that with the gratitudes, I really needed to find evidence that we could be a happy family again. And I did find evidence of that, and I focused on it. So the gratitude kind of shifted me into a different energy where I could show up as my best self instead of showing up
Hmm.
as an angry, frustrated life.
Yeah. So it sounds like the decision to focus on your gratitude kind of squeezed out the resentment and the anger. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And so and how was this how was all of this for you? Like how was it for Julia to start being grateful instead of because you'd been, I mean, rightfully so, pretty upset, right? You got really hurt.
Yeah, it was really, really difficult, because there were so many things I wanted to say, and I wanted to say the opposite of what I was saying. I wanted to tell him how much he hurt me,
Yeah.
and I kind of wanted to hurt him. So it was really tough
Right.
to really dig deep and I really focused on right before and right after we were married, and the gratitude I felt, and I knew how good we were together, and I just focused on that. I focused on the good times, and I focused on the fact that he was a good father. I felt that he was doing this because of his kids and not because of me, and that I really focused on that positivity instead of thinking of what he was actually saying to me, that we didn't have a future. Um, I believed quite the opposite. I saw him in my future, and he was the only person I'd ever seen in my future. Even I'd been married before. Um, I never saw a big future with anybody else except, and I did feel that we still had a future. So I really focused on that.
Julia, this is amazing. It's breathtaking. This is an incredible story. It almost sounds too good to be true. And one question I have for you is because you were saying some of the things that were the opposite, like I love that you say, I wanted to tell him how much he hurt me, because I think that
Yeah,
is what mere mortal woman doesn't want to say, you really hurt me.
yeah,
And here's what you did. Don't you see what you did? Right. And have him
yeah.
and her to hurt him too. I think is just such a natural instinct. And did you ever get to express that, or did you ever express that? I guess I should say.
Um, I did when we got back together. So, for a while, and I became vulnerable. I don't think that the true vulnerability only came after I started coach training, and I realized that I wasn't being the soft, kind of nurturing wife that he really wanted to see. Yeah, so I think that's what I needed to do. I needed to, when we first got back together, things started to dip again, and that's when I realized I really wasn't being my authentic self and telling him how hurt I was. And that really just brought us back together again. So, and with coach training, I was able to delve into that and really realize that our relationship could get even better.
And was
And we're
Coach,
so close.
and you're so close now. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, what a story. So it sounds like it it was a, it was very it served your relationship really well to really not go there with how much you hurt me and wanting to hurt you
Yeah.
back. That was something you didn't indulge at first. And then as you created more emotional safety and then you guys got back together and this was as you were getting tons of support and coach training, it sounds like, and that kind of helped you go to the next level of being vulnerable.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I was vulnerable right before we got back together because I said, I hear that this is what you want, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to take you up on this. I'm going to respect what you want, and I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to go date. I'm going to, I had an ex-boyfriend ask me to have a do-over, so. And so I told my husband, I said, I'm going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to respect your decision. And I feel very, very sad. And I really want us to stay married. And I was very vulnerable at that point. And then it was literally the next day that he came back to me.
Oh my gosh. So what did he say when you said all that?
Um, when I told him all that, um, I think that, he had been baiting me a little bit. And when he realized that I was serious, that that I was going to respect his decision, he realized I really was respecting him. And I really did mean everything I said. And that he heard me say that I was hurt. He heard me say that I was sad and that I really wanted our marriage to work. And I think he just really believed me at that point because I was just so sad at that point because I had tried so hard for almost a year. And it was at that point, I think he just felt that, sorry about that. He felt that I was being authentic and he came back.
He believed you.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the difference between, because this is really, this is very compelling. That sounds like a magical movie moment where you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
I respect you and you were so vulnerable. And I really can feel the vulnerability too. It's like really, I know when someone's being vulnerable, I feel like closer to them. I feel connected to them. And it's kind of like endearing. And I can feel that as you're describing it. But I just want to ask you what the difference is between you telling him how hurt you were when he first left and you telling him, and you saying all this after you were back together, because it sounds like there's a difference, but what was it?
Well, my vulnerability wasn't just when we were back together. It was right before we did get back
That's
together.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I think I delved deeper into the vulnerability though when we were back together and we were having a little more issues because of trust. And I realized that I just wasn't being as vulnerable as I should because I felt like I couldn't trust again. I felt like maybe he would leave me again. So
Sure. There's evidence,
yeah,
right? He's done it
right,
once.
right. So I had to go back to that place of vulnerability and really let him in and see my soft side instead of putting my back up and not letting him in.
I mean, amazing. It sounds super scary. It sounds very, very courageous. Congratulations on being so brave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And okay, so then he moved back. He's back. I know we're skipping around a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's also valuable. So, and what about those boys fighting and all that? What happened there?
Well, we're still working on that. We're still working on the boys.
You mean to tell me you have three teenage boys and they fight sometimes? Is that what you're telling me, Julie?
That's true. Yes. Yeah, it's pretty
I can't
normal.
say I'm not very surprised about that, but okay. So
Yeah. Well, what's changed is that my husband and I are now kind of like more of a united front, and we trust each other. And I trust him to be the father of my child as well as his. So we're all a big one big sort of happy family. They still fight. I mean, they still ignore each other a lot, but it's a work in progress. So
yeah.
the biggest thing is that my husband and I work together to avoid, um, what happened before. We don't want to ever separate again.
We don't ever want to separate again. That's
Yeah.
what it's like at your house now. That this is
Yes.
there's and
It's
it's
a
not
big,
I hear you sound like you feel very secure about that. Is that true?
I do. I do. We're very, very connected, very strong. Um, we're back to where we were in the beginning now. And, it's never going to be perfect, obviously, but we have ways of dealing with it. I have the skills. So it's a really connected feeling and we both talk to each other about it every day. We're very open, very vulnerable. We tell each other everything. So yeah,
Wow.
it's much easier now.
Wow. That sounds amazing. And what an accomplishment to be such a united front. That sounds like a triumph for with the three
Mm-hmm.
boys. And I really hear like a new level of trust for you with him bringing, he's a father to your son now, that's a big vulnerability as well.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I trust him with being father to my son as well as his son. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
tremendous amount of respect
Mm-hmm.
that you are giving him. And what is your relationship like? I mean, day to day, like
Now
bring me in
it's
there.
um we're soulmates. We already knew that before. My husband is super protective of me and extremely attentive. He makes me feel very safe. He's very romantic. I always have flowers on the counter. And he takes me wherever I want to go. I express a pure desire, and he just wants to make me happy. He's a very loving and caring father and husband. We do so much together. We have a lot of fun. Like I said, it's not perfect. We still do have disagreements, but they no longer escalate into fights. He's he's really the love of my life, and we do put each other first now. We hold a loving, safe place for our kids, and we give each other space when we need it or when we want to spend time with our friends and family. I was really so involved and so focused on my marriage that I kind of lost myself in it. So we give each other space. It's really important for us both to do our self-care and then to come back together again. And we really have a beautiful union now.
Wow, incredible. What an accomplishment. I mean, who does this? Usually, especially a blended family, lots of fighting, he moves out all of a sudden. You don't expect to hear a happily ever after, not perfect, but it sounds like the kind of marriage we all want to have that you have now. It's incredible. It kind of sounds like a miracle.
Yeah, it feels like a miracle, actually.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
it really is a miracle for me. I've had my miracle, and I just still can't believe it. I'm just kind of living in a dream. And I so believe in these skills that, I wanted to take the coach training, and I'm really happy that I did. Because it continues to give me gifts that, I never thought I could have, and continues to help me go deeper into the skills and keep doing my gratitudes. And my relationship just keeps getting better and better. And I feel like it's getting better with, extended family and just being, being more accountable and aware of myself and not blaming others and not being defensive. So this has really changed my life, Laura, and I am so grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really taking that in, and I'm also so grateful for you and for getting to hear your whole story of this incredible accomplishment. I was just thinking about your son. How did this affect your son that you did all this?
It's interesting you say that, because I had someone say to me, or I heard them say to somebody else that, I wouldn't be in that situation because, it's really difficult on your son. I would have just taken him out of that. I would have taken him out of the situation. Because he was really affected by the fighting and by the ignoring, because there were, two of my husband's boys and one of him. So it was really hard on him. And it was really hard to hear that. But I do feel like it was the right thing to do, because he's grown into such an amazing kid. He's 15 now, and he really kind of rolls with the punches. And I think that he's learned how to deal with adversity. And, he's had the love of all of his family behind him. And I think a blended family needs to be treated like a biological family. And he's doing quite well. He's very well adjusted, happy kid. So
it's interesting too, because sometimes I just know, I just think about my own siblings and the fighting that went on there, and a lot of things could get said at home, but then when we were outside the house, there was a lot of loyalty. If there's a perceived threat from outside, so I'm just curious. I don't know. And I love how you say that he's learned how to overcome adversity, maybe is one of the lessons in this, but and I can't help but think that his bond with your husband's two sons is probably pretty strong, even though he feels like the odd man out because they're brothers. So
yeah, we took them to Mexico, and they, seemed to really, really bond with one of them. So that was really lovely to see. And kids are kids, right? They're gonna continue to have conflicts, but they know that they're loved. They're all loved, and they're in a safe space, and they're good. They're thriving, all of them. So.
Oh, that's awesome. It must feel really good as a mom to be able to give them this, home court advantage. They got a home court advantage. And so, what's your tip, especially for someone, because I kind of love, you probably didn't love this at all, but I love as part of your story that you're like 8-9 months in, he's not coming back. You've been working the skills, you have, they're not working for you, is how it felt. What would you say to someone who's in that situation where she's like, I've been doing these skills and he's not coming back, and he's telling me we have no future together, and she wants what you have now, where there's always flowers and she knows it's her soulmate. She feels so confident and secure, and just can see the future, a bright future together with her husband, like what you have now. What's your best tip for her?
My best tip is just relinquish control of the timeline. It's be patient and be vulnerable. I was really riddled with fear that things weren't going my way, and I saw my husband repelling from me. So instead of telling him that I was scared of losing him, I tried to control him, and vulnerability was my biggest hurdle. I felt like I was such a strong, independent woman who didn't need a man, and that came through loud and clear. I realized that I had my walls up. So break the fear, be vulnerable, and it's gonna break down your walls. And one thing my husband said to me was, I love seeing the soft side of you, the soft, nurturing side of you. And yeah, that's my tip.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. And what do you think kept you hanging on when it looked like he really wasn't going to come back?
That's a good question. Because that was a long time that
That's a
I
long
thought
time,
he wasn't going to come back.
right? It's a long time.
I had faith. I put my faith over my fear. I saw these skills as being something that, it's not going to take overnight. It's not going to just be something that is going to happen overnight. It just kept me going, and just being able to see him and seeing the skills kind of incrementally increasing. I could see it in him. I could see his change. I could see that he was a little skeptical at first. And then, actually he wasn't believing me. And then more curious. And then he seemed to really fully buy in towards the end. So, and then I saw these changes actually transform him into the person that he was before with me. So giving, loving, trusting, and just became really happy to see me. So he almost kind of started using the skills with me, because he started to apologize to me for
Really?
leaving so abruptly and for reacting so badly. So
That must have been great to hear. That must have been amazing to hear that apology.
it was, yeah. But I could see the change in him. I could see him really changing as well. And I think you call that the wife mirror.
The wife mirror.
And I felt him being magnetized back to me.
So you're getting little breadcrumbs along the way. It sounds like little signs of
Little signs, yeah.
this is the way, as the Mandalorian
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though it was discouraging at times, you had cause for hope, and you were focusing on that.
I was focusing on hope. The gratitudes really helped. The self-care really helped. I became really entrenched in the self-care. Instead of just being really focused on what was going on in my family and trying to fix it. And especially when he was gone, I was just, I knew that I had to stop being so needy and clingy, and just start doing things that made me happy. And that's what I did. When COVID started letting up, I started, spending time with my friends more, and just really focusing on my own happiness and taking my focus off of him and the negative things, instead of trying to keep the peace.
So the
Just becoming
energy,
internally happy.
yeah, the energy you were spending on trying to keep the peace, you turned in a different direction towards how to make Julia happy.
Right.
That really worked, it sounds like.
Yeah, it really worked for me, so that I could just relinquish control of the timeline of when he would come back, because I fully believed he would, for a long time. Like I said, I saw him in my future. So I had a lot of hope, and the gratitude and the skills really helped with that. And the self-care. The self-care was huge.
So good. Really good job. What do you think you would say to yourself if you could go back in time and tell you what you know now? that you didn't know then?
Just be myself, chill out a little bit, be the calm person he met, the lovely person he met, be the easygoing wife he married. He once thought I was an angel. He picked the song Angel by Jack Johnson for me to walk down the aisle at our wedding. So just, if I could tell myself anything, I would say, just stay that way. Don't get in his way.
Oh,
just let him be the amazing person he is, and respect him.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I want to give you a wife.
Oh,
yes. See, best wife.
Nice.
You've earned it. You've earned it. It's incredible what you've accomplished. We don't always get to see the inside of marriages except on this podcast, right? And then inside the programs and coach training. But I think it's an incredible accomplishment to have a blended family of, 14, 16 months, and to have it fall apart and feel so hurt, and then use that to create something really beautiful, which is this whole intact blended family where it sounds like everyone feels loved, and that you're with your soulmate. It sounds romantic. It sounds fun, and it sounds safe. And I hear security. And this is an incredible accomplishment that you did by being brave and open and willing to practice the skills as best you could. And so it's very impressive. And I just want to congratulate you.
Well, thank you, Laura. I will accept that award.
Nice receiving. Nice receiving.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's been inspiring and instructive. And I know a lot of people are taking a lot of hope from you right now.
Well, I hope that they do, because it is pretty magical, and I feel that very strongly that it works. The skills do work. Yeah.
You are proof. You are proof of that.
I'm living proof.
Here's a shortcut for getting on one of those group coaching calls that you've heard so much about on this podcast without having to commit to a membership. You ready? Be one of the first to get my brand new Empowered Wife workbook and journal, a guided journey to transforming your marriage with the 6 intimacy skills. Pick it up at the store, any store, and upload a picture of the receipt to lauradoyle.org/journal-bonus. It's lauradoyle.org/journal-bonus. We'll give you the secret handshake so you can join the call on July 27th. And who knows, maybe you'll get coaching from a master relationship coach, or you can just lurk in the back of the Zoom call if you prefer. My brand new Empowered Wife workbook and journal includes a 30-day routine to kickstart your practice of the 6 intimacy skills. It's filled with powerful questions and exercises to make them stick and make your marriage last and thrive. So get your Empowered Wife workbook and journal now at your favorite retailer so we can put your name on the guest list for a group coaching call with a master relationship coach. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. On next week's podcast, we're going to talk about what to do when you and your husband have nothing to talk about. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is I went shopping for what I thought was organic broccoli and carrots, but when I got home, it turned out to be chocolate.